What up? I'm B and welcome to my channel where we talk about all things true crime and current events. Today is another episode of what I like to call Crafty Crimes, where you and I sit down together, we talk about something related to the true crime world, and we do a little crocheting at the same time. Today we are going to be talking about the case of Shanda Sharer, and this is a case that really it took the Midwest by storm. So this happens in 1991, and Shanda was just, by all accounts, the sweetest little girl. Her mom talked about how she loved pop music and she made friends super easily. She said, Shanda was just my little buddy. She loved having big hair. She had this beautiful curly, blonde hair, and she was she used a whole can of hairspray every time she did her hair. And she was really social. Like I said, she was great in school. She had all A's, and she was even in a ton of sports. She was in basketball, baseball, she did gymnastics, and she was even on the cheerleading squad. So just an all-around great little girl. And before 1991, Shanda and her mom Jackie, they were living in Kentucky, but they had decided to move to New Albany, Indiana, so that way Shanda could be closer to her dad and her stepmom. And before this move, Shanda had been going to this little Catholic school. It was just a place where, she was comfortable, she knew everybody, just like a small, close environment. But when she moved to New Albany, she was going to be starting school at Hazelwood Middle School, which was so much bigger, such a different environment, such a different experience, and she was kind of nervous about it, but she was outgoing, she was friendly, and she pretty quickly made a group of friends. And one day, one of her new friends was talking about how she wanted to break up with her boyfriend, and her boyfriend had given her this ring, so she was gonna give it back to him. And Jackie, Shanda's mom, was like, this is so typical of Shanda. She never wants somebody to feel like they're alone. She always comes alongside and helps. And so she had offered to give the ring back to this boy. So her friend was like, okay, yeah, I'd rather not do it. They're 12 years old. So Shanda takes the ring and goes up to the boy in the hallway, gives it back to him, and explains why she's doing it. And, he's pretty upset because someone he barely knows, this was the beginning of the school year. So somebody he doesn't know is coming up to him, giving him his ring back that he'd given to his girlfriend. And he got, pretty upset. And a girl named Amanda Havron, she was 14 at the time, she saw this happening. And that boy was actually her cousin. So she got involved and basically said the same thing. You're not involved in this. Why are you giving this ring back? You have no business sticking your nose in this. And she attacked Shanda physically, started trying to beat her up. She knocked her over. She was hitting her. A teacher had to come break up the whole thing. And Amanda walked away unscathed, but Shanda had a pretty big bump on her head. And both girls ended up getting detention for a week. So the girls are in detention, and you would think that they would either continue fighting or just not talk to each other, want nothing to do with each other, but they actually became friends. And Shanda's mom was not super thrilled about this. She's like, this girl punched you, she tried to beat you up, and now you want to hang out with her. I just don't get it. But Shanda assured her mom that, no, Amanda's super nice. It was just a misunderstanding. I really want to be her friend. Trust me, she's a good person. Her mom's like, all right, well, I trust you. If you say she's nice, I guess she's nice. I'll have to give her the benefit of the doubt and take your word for it. So the girls remain friends. They get closer and closer, and eventually in October, they decided to go to a school dance together. Now, the problem with this is that Amanda had been dating a girl named Melinda Lovelace on again, off again for the past year or so, and Melinda was 16. So Melinda's 16, Amanda's 14, and Shanda is 12. Melinda was just extremely controlling of Amanda. She always tried to tell her what to do. She was very possessive. She wanted what she wanted, and when Amanda and Shanda decided to go to the dance together, she was not happy. Melinda confronted the two girls and told Shanda that she'd better stay away from Amanda. You know, this is kind of paraphrasing, but, stay away from her, or else. She basically threatened Shanda. But Amanda was done with Melinda. She didn't want to date her anymore. She was like, I'm done with you, and she wanted to get closer to Shanda. So the two girls continued their friendship, and it got to a point where Amanda was just not becoming the greatest influence on Shanda. Jackie, Shanda's mom, was like, Amanda was just always around. She was like this little bug, always calling, always coming over, just constantly around Shanda, and Shanda started actually failing her classes, which was completely different from how she was at her old school. She got amazing grades and she was super involved, and now she has this new friend. She's failing her classes, and she's actually starting to become pretty distant from her mom and her dad and her stepmom. So the combination of all this kind of led Shanda's parents to put their foot down and say, look, we know that you like Amanda, you guys are really good friends, you guys are really close, but you're not making the greatest decisions, you're not focusing on your schoolwork, it's time for you guys to spend some time apart. And they told Shanda that she was not supposed to be hanging out with Amanda anymore. And then one day, Shanda had tried to mail a letter to Amanda, but she put it in the mailbox and she didn't put a stamp on it. So Jackie obviously found it, and this just kind of tells you how young Shanda is, that she didn't realize you had to put a stamp on a letter in order for it to be mailed, in order for the post office to take it and deliver it. So Jackie is like, you're not supposed to be hanging out with this girl. What are you writing to her about? What are you guys talking about that's so important? And she decides to read the letter, and it is made evidently clear in that letter that Shanda and Amanda had some form of physical contact, and Shanda was telling Amanda how much she missed her soft body. So Jackie, Shanda's mom, realizes that this is a lot deeper than she originally thought it was, and she was not comfortable with her 12-year-old daughter engaging in any sort of physical relationship. And at the same time, Melinda, Amanda's ex, was going around talking about how much she didn't like Shanda, how much she wanted something done about her, and she even wrote a letter telling Amanda that she wanted Shanda dead. So, because of all of this going on, her daughter getting into a physical relationship too young, her daughter failing her classes, this really threatening 16-year-old girl who is jealous of a 12-year-old, won't leave Shanda alone, just all of this. Jackie, Shanda's dad, and Shanda's stepmom all get together and they decide to move Shanda to a different school that is a little bit closer to her dad's house. And so this school is, it's more similar to what the type of environment that Shanda was used to. It was another small Catholic school. It was called Our Lady of Perpetual Help. And it was like they moved her and she just went back to the girl that her mom knew. Like, she just reverted back to kind of who she truly was. She was getting amazing grades. She had made friends really quickly. She was getting involved in activities at school, and she'd even started not wanting to talk to Amanda. Like, she wouldn't return Amanda's letters. If Amanda called and Jackie answered the phone, she would tell Shanda, like, hey, Amanda's on the phone. And Shanda would say, oh, I'll call her back later, and then just not call her back. Like, at this point, she'd moved school, she made new friends. She'd pretty much forgotten about Amanda. But despite this, Melinda just couldn't let the betrayal go. She met a young girl named Lori Tackett, and she went to a different school, and she was 17 years old. And Lori had not necessarily a tough upbringing, but she lived in a house that was extremely religious, extremely conservative, and she didn't like it. She was kind of trying to rebel against it. So she cut her hair super short. She started really diving into the occult and learning about witchcraft and all that stuff that pretty much went against what her parents' view of religion should be. And she just became obsessed with it. She even talked about how she was obsessed with fire and burning, and her biggest dream in life was to burn somebody's body. So the two girls came together and they came up with a plan that would let them both get what they wanted. On January 10th, 1992, this is just a few months after that dance in October. This is just a few months later. Shanda was at her dad's house, and her dad and her stepmom, they were going to bed, but Shanda was up watching TV, so they told her to, she watch a little bit more TV, but then make sure she went to bed at a pretty reasonable time. And so she was the only one who was up in the house, and she realized somebody was at the door. So she goes to the door, and there are 3 girls outside. There is Lori Tackett, as well as Hope Rippey and Tony Lawrence. And Tony and Hope, they're both 15 at the time, and they all went to school with Lori. So they told Shanda, hey, we're friends of Amanda. She really wants to see you. She really misses you. She sent us over here to come pick you up so that way we could take you out to the witch's castle and you guys can hang out. And the witch's castle is this decrepit stone building that is out in the middle of nowhere. Local legend says that it used to be a home for a coven of witches, and that the local people in the town didn't like these witches, so they decided to burn the house down with the witches inside. And now it's just a creepy hangout place where teenagers go when they're trying to scare themselves, or if they want to do drugs, or if they want to drink, and even on Halloween they'll throw parties out there. So it's just kind of a spooky place to hang out. So even though Shanda was, pretty much done with Amanda, having these girls come up and say how much Amanda missed her and how much she wanted to see her, it's just, it kind of got to her. That's your first crush, you don't get over that super easily. So she decided to go with the girls. She went outside, got in their car with them, and they went out to the witch's castle. But when they got there, Shanda realized that Amanda was nowhere to be found. And pretty quickly, somebody popped up from underneath a blanket in the trunk of the car and held a knife to Shanda's throat. That person was Melinda Lovelace. And at this point, Tony and Hope, the 2 younger girls, they were told that they were just going to take Shanda out there to give her a scare, kind of get revenge on her, freak her out, ooh, we're going to scare her at the witch's castle. But Melinda popped out with that knife and put it up to Shanda's throat and told her that she had to confess to stealing Amanda away from her. And Shanda's 12, how scary is that? You're 12 years old and an older girl is holding a knife to your neck out in the middle of nowhere. So Shanda's just trying to say whatever she can to get Shanda to be happy, to let her go, leave her alone, trying anything she can say to get the situation to be better. But there's nothing she can say, because Melinda didn't just want to scare her. Obviously, she wanted more. So Melinda and Lori, they take Shanda out of the car and they take her clothes from her and they just start punching her over and over and over again. And then Melinda starts bashing Shanda's head into her knee until she is just, blood is pouring from her mouth and she is in horrible shape because she's getting beaten up by 2 older girls. At this point, Melinda gets the knife that she'd had and she tries to slit Shanda's throat. But the knife is too dull and so doesn't work. And because it's not working, Melinda just gets angry and starts stabbing Shanda in the chest. And at the same time, Lori gets 2 pieces of rope from the car and starts strangling Shanda, and they're both trying to kill her. They are both going at her. And this goes on for a little bit until, Shanda pretty much stops moving. She stops screaming, and they think that they killed her. They think that they did what they came out there to do. So they get her body, put it in the trunk of the car, and go to Lori's house, where they clean themselves up and they're just hanging out, having a regular late night, like just doing whatever. And then they hear screaming from the trunk. So Lori goes out and checks in the trunk to realize that Shanda is still alive. She has been punched. She has had her head bashed in by a knee. She has been stabbed. She has been strangled. But she's still alive. She is, can you imagine going through all of that? Like, she's weak, but she is still there. But obviously, they don't want her to live, so Lori stabs her a few more times. And then she goes and gets Melinda, tells her that, hey, Shanda is still alive out there. We gotta go figure out what to do with her. And so the two of them get in the car, take Shanda to another location, a different remote location, and Melinda decides to beat Shanda with a tire iron and then sodomize her with it. And when she's done, the two girls get back in the car, go back to Lori's house, and pick up Tony and Hope, the other two girls. And they're like, okay, time to get rid of the body. So they get them in the car and they head to this gas station. And the whole time they're just bragging about what they had just done and pretty much everything they'd done throughout the course of the night. And they go to the gas station, buy a 2-liter bottle of Pepsi, empty the Pepsi out, and fill it with gasoline. And then they drive out to a hunting field. So this isn't like a forest. It's not a rocky area where you can hide behind stuff. It is a field, like a wide open field. And the 4 girls each pour some of the gasoline on Shanda, and they set her on fire. And the most horrific thing, out of all the injustice that happened to Shanda that night, is that Shanda was still alive at this point. She was not dead. She was alive. She was breathing. She was writhing in agony. And all the girls just watched her as all she could say was mommy. They all said that her last words were mommy. So at this point, the 4 girls have completed what they set out to do, and they go home. Later that day, a hunter was out in the field hunting, and he saw this charred object. He said it didn't really look like a person. He thought it was a mannequin or something, but he still called the police. And they went out there, they, took the pictures, they investigated the scene, they got the body and all of that, and they start looking through their missing persons reports. But they can't find anything. There is nothing. There's no missing person report. She doesn't match anybody, and so they're kind of at a dead end. And the reason is because the girls had taken Shanda to a different county that was over an hour away from her house. So the police don't really know what to do. Meanwhile, back in New Albany, Shanda's dad and stepmom woke up and they realized that she wasn't there. So they called Jackie, Shanda's mom, and asked if, did Shanda call? Do you know where she is? Is she with you? Did you come pick her up? Like, we can't find her. We don't know where she is. So do you have her? Jackie did not have her. Shanda had not called her. She had no idea where she was. So they called the police. And at this point, Jackie goes over to Shanda's dad's house, and so they're all waiting together. No one's found a body in their county. Nobody has heard anything or seen anything, and so they just spend all day waiting. Eventually, a police officer comes to their house and says that they found Shanda's body and she's been murdered. And the way that they knew this was because later that day, Toni Lawrence and her parents had gone into the New Albany police station, and she told them everything. She apparently felt very guilty. She was in tears. She, I truly believe that she did not set out that night intending to commit a murder, but she still allowed it to happen. So my sympathy levels are moderate for her, but she went in and told them everything, told them where they dumped the body. The police ended up calling Madison County, and they found out yep, like, you have the body, we have the family of the missing girl, we know who it is, and it matched up. So Tony told them everything. Hope, the other 15-year-old girl, the younger one, she came in, told the police everything, and by the next day, all 4 girls had been arrested. So because Tony and Hope had told the police so much, they'd given so much detail, it really wasn't a question of, what happened, how did it happen, who was involved. The police, they knew everything. And while Tony and Hope were the ones who were most forthcoming with their testimony, Melinda and Lori, they both admitted their involvement, but they tried to shift the blame, onto each other. They said things such as, it didn't feel like me, I couldn't believe I was there, I couldn't believe I was in this situation. They admitted they were there, but they wouldn't take responsibility for it. But it didn't really matter because they had both Hope and Tony's account of what happened, and they both admitted to being there. They all 4 admitted to that, so it was pretty much a guarantee that they were going to be found guilty. So because of the horrific nature of the crimes, all 4 girls were going to be tried as adults, and all 4 ended up taking plea deals because that way they could avoid the death penalty. So Tony, the girl who first went into the police station, she obviously got the lightest sentence. She was charged with 1 count of criminal confinement, and she was sentenced to 20 years in jail. She only served 9 years, and she was released in December of 2000, and then she was on parole for 2 years until December of 2002. Hope, the other girl who did not set out that night to kill someone, she was sentenced to 60 years with 10 years suspended due to mitigating circumstances. And you and I talked about this last week, where a judge will suspend the sentence due to either meeting parole requirements or mitigating circumstances. And I kind of believe that the circumstances they're referring to were the fact that she was misled about what the intention of the night was, and the fact that she was the second one to go to the police. And so because of that, they suspended the 10 years of her sentence, meaning she didn't have to serve them. So that's a 50-year sentence. And then later she did appeal the sentence, and she ended up getting only 35 years. But of course, she did not serve that full sentence. She only spent 14 years in jail, and she was released in April of 2002. Now, the 2 older girls, Melinda and Lori, they both got 60-year sentences, but Lori was released in January of 2018, which means that she only served 26 years of that sentence. And as for Melinda, she did spend the longest time in jail. It was her revenge plan, the person that she wanted to murder. And Jackie, Shanda's mom, she spent a really long time just being so sad about what happened to her daughter and not really feeling much sympathy for Melinda. She said at one point something along the lines of, if you want to see a person without a soul, look at Melinda Loveless, because that's as close to nothing as you're gonna see. Just saying, there's nothing behind her eyes. She did not show any remorse. She was not sorry for what she did. However, during the course of Melinda's testimony, it came out that Melinda's dad had been an alcoholic, and he was verbally abusive to Melinda and her siblings, as well as sexually abusive to them. So, while that doesn't ever give somebody an excuse for committing crimes like this, it does kind of help you to understand maybe where their mindset is, or why they may feel comfortable committing something like this, committing a crime that is as just terrible and sad as this one is. So her dad was actually tried and convicted of abusing his children like that, and so we know that she wasn't lying. And this is when Jackie kind of started to feel sympathy for her. And Melinda actually started working with a program while she was in prison. It's called the Indiana Canine Assistant Network, and it is a program that allows people to train puppies that are going to be service dogs for people with disabilities. Apparently, Melinda is super loving with the dogs. She is so sweet with them, and the program director actually showed Jackie a video of Melinda working with some of these dogs, and Jackie had said, "I was really taken aback. I saw someone almost reborn. She was sincere, she was compassionate. I think the ICANN program allows her to have something in her life that she can show love to, and there's no betrayal on either side." She saw Melinda in a completely different way. She saw Melinda trying to show love and be a little bit better, and so Jackie, bless her, she donated a puppy named Angel for Melinda to train. And Jackie she says that she's so intentional about waking up with the glass half full. She doesn't want to be hard. She doesn't want to be bitter. She wants to move on as best she can and to not let this allow her to lead her life with hate. Basically, about giving the dog to Melinda, she said, "It's my choice to make. She's my child. If you don't let good things come from bad things, it never gets better. I know what my child would want. My child would want this." And in response to receiving the dog from Jackie, Melinda told a reporter, "She helped me to heal, forgive, and grow. Whether she wanted that or not, she did a good thing. I couldn't thank her enough. Angel is in good hands. I'm doing it for Shanda. I'm doing it for her." And Melinda was actually released in September of this year, so she is out of prison and she is currently on parole. I truly don't know how I feel about it, because I do believe people can change, but it kind of rubs me the wrong way that she said, she trains these dogs and she's taking such good care of Angel because she's doing it for Shanda. I don't know, it kind of feels like a ploy. It feels kind of like see, I changed, I'm doing this for her. Like, you didn't care about her when you tried to cut her throat open. You didn't care about her when you sodomized her with a tire iron. You didn't care about her when you poured gasoline on her and lit her on fire and listened to her say, "Mommy, mommy," for the last few minutes of her life. So, obviously, I know people can change. I know people can grow, and they can see that the mistakes that they've made in the past were absolutely mistakes, and people should be allowed to grow and not let those things define them. But I guess the nice way to say it is that I have my doubts. So let me know what you think. Does it sound like she's sincere? Do you think that you can come back from something like that and just change and be a loving, compassionate person and actually realize that what you did was wrong? Or do you think that once you go that far, that's kind of where you are and you don't really come back from that? Because I'm really interested to hear your thoughts on it. You always leave such good, thoughtful, analytical comments, and so I love reading them. So go ahead and leave me a comment and let me know. And while you're doing that, if you would consider liking this video or subscribing to my channel, I would really appreciate it. And if you have subscribed already, thank you so much. I love being able to just sit here, hang out, and talk about whatever with you, so I am extremely appreciative that you are here. With all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Thank you so much for watching this video, and remember to go out there and be the voice of reason in a world full of crazy. Bye.